Hey you guys, welcome back to the Nurse Bros podcast. This is Tyler.
And this is Josh. We're getting right back into it. Day one post-op. Still can't walk. Still got your
can't
catheter
move.
in.
Oh God, I'm so thankful I didn't have a catheter, as far as I know anyway.
I think that's the greatest fear.
That's my greatest medical fear. It scares me so much. So today, very important episode.
Quick side note, not to interrupt you, but just had a funny story in relation to our podcast that came up the other day. I was occasionally, if our floor is overstaffed, they'll send us to other floors. I was sent to a different floor, and I get a call from this PACU nurse, and she's like, "Is this the Josh from third floor?" I'm like, "Yeah, oh, the Josh. Oh, why yes, that's me." I didn't know how to react. She said she loved the podcast, so I was like, it was just funny.
Oh my God, we're in. Yeah, you weren't with me the other day, but Rebecca on PCU was like, "Hey, it's the nurse bro," and I was like, "I guess I am only bro. I don't have Josh with me. I'm all alone. Just one half of the bros." Well, today I wanted to talk about voting and the upcoming election and how they say it all the time, most important election of your life, but this one truly is. There's so much on the line here. We're at such a tumultuous time in the United States of America.
And the world.
Yeah, in the world. And really, again, I'm a very big proponent of voting. I don't care what side you're on. Everyone needs to register to vote, have a voting plan. Democracy does not work when we are not involved. And that goes for Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Green Party people, Libertarians. Voice your opinions. Make sure your voice is heard and counted. It is extremely important now and forever.
Yeah, now is not the time to be undecided. Again, no matter what side you're on, make a decision. Like this
democracy is not a spectator sport.
It's funny. I, in the back of my mind, I've always voted, but in the back of my mind, there's a voice that says, "Oh, you're just one vote. It doesn't matter." But I know, I never listen to that side, but I know it's the collective thought of my vote doesn't matter. That is what cripples democracy.
That is very true.
Your vote does matter.
Everybody's vote matters, and that's why certain politicians are so afraid when people do rise up and vote.
We can actually talk about this. The Texas issue that was going on with the governor blocking off ballot drop-off locations. If you're not familiar, the governor wanted to block off a bunch of locations for security purposes, like for integrity purposes in regards to the election. For drop-off locations for absentee ballots. That was recently, that order was overturned by a federal judge. But to me, that's like a clear example of your vote mattering, because that is clearly, there is no no other thing other than voter suppression. And you're more familiar on like where he was blocking, Tyler, but like,
yeah, I can't tell you. I forgot what the name of the one county was, but there was rough general description here. There is a county in northwestern Texas, not quite sure the name, but I remember seeing there was near 1,000 people that live in that county, and they have one absentee ballot drop-off spot. So he took Harris County, which houses Houston and a bunch of other major hubs. 4.7 million people, I think, are there, something around that in that county, and took everything away except for one absentee ballot drop-off box place. Right. So I don't know what else to call that besides blatant voter suppression. And it's the most diverse county in Texas.
I was going to say, especially when you look at the demographics and kind of the voting demographics as well on the targeted areas, it's like, wow, you really don't want those people to vote.
Yeah, it's not done by, coincidence.
It's not like, oh, we're just going to do it in this random county, just for integrity purposes. We want to make sure it's safe. No, it's clearly voter suppression. If people don't want you to vote, think about that. Your vote does matter, and this is clearly an example. We can talk about voter suppression. That's a whole side topic. But the fact that it exists means you should be voting. Do whatever it takes to get your vote and voice heard.
So you're registered, I'm assuming? You're ready to go?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've already dropped off my ballot.
My God, already? I filled mine out. I gotta drop mine off. I'm still debating on whether I want to drop it off, like go in on early voting day, drop it off, or if I want to mail it. Or I did drop it off. They have the drop box. But
Right.
I don't know if I want to actually see it counted.
Right.
I don't know. It's just weird times. I mean, I guess that brings us to our first issue, is the whole vote by mail issue. That's not really an issue. That's now been made an issue because, like anything else in this country, it's been politicized, even though no one's ever had an issue with mail-in voting prior to probably 2016 and now conveniently 2020.
And you would feel like in a COVID world, where going in and waiting in line is maybe not ideal, voting by mail would be pushed, but it's funny how it's been stomped on and made a politicized issue when it's never been. And to me, it's just another confounding moment of the past 4 years.
Yeah, so a little brief history on voting by mail. It really grew popularity during the Civil War, and I have an article up here. It was promoted by Lincoln, Republican president. Shocker. He said that during war, if we don't have an election, we will not have a free government. So we won't have free government without elections. Even though there's a war going, we still need to hold our regularly scheduled elections. So he had a big push for it, and the states were on board, so much so that states changed their laws to even allow soldiers to name a proxy back home to go vote for them. They also created polling sites in the camps themselves, and conveniently, Lincoln carried 78% of the military vote that election. So, and I want to bring up one thing about the military, because the president sits there, says he loves the military. Republicans really draw this hardline stance on military support, whether it be faux support or not. It's what they... Point. It's a talking point for them. Yet, you want to say that there's fraud in mail-in voting. We still have however many thousands of troops overseas, so you're basically saying that their vote doesn't matter? These people support you, but you don't want them to vote? Why are they literally fighting for us to vote, but you don't want them to vote? What are they going to do? Come home from Syria real quick? Yeah. Show their ID, vote, Run back over there real quick. Get a little break. Run through the minefields. Get on a plane. Come back. I mean, give me a break. This stuff, it's so silly.
Yeah, you're talking about the history of vote by mail. It's still a reality today. We still have...
And it's cheaper. It's much cheaper. We bitch about how much everything costs in this country. It literally is a fraction of the price. We do not have to employ people to do voting early for 2 weeks. And then the day of, we don't have to deal with long lines in a pandemic where people have the risk of getting sick. They can do it from home. I mean, there's literally a study was done, and in a few of the states, there are Utah, right? Oregon, Colorado, Washington, and Hawaii. And I want to point out Utah there because it's a very red state. And they vote by mail 100% for every election. And in all those elections, they've only found... Well, in 2016 and 2018 general elections, they found fraud of 0.0025%. That's what they found. So whenever someone tells you there's widespread voter fraud, either ask them for data or it's bullshit, frankly.
Yeah, and if that's the funny thing that's been touted as, oh, vote by mail is going to mess up the election and things like that. Where's the data on that? Because to me, it's easy to say. You can say that, oh, it's not a secure system. And if you don't really do your research, you're like, well, you might buy into that. And then November 3rd comes around, and if there's an unfavorable result, rigged election. But look at the data on actually voting by mail. It's interesting how secure and safe it is.
But the interesting, I mean, we were just talking about it. It's so interesting. Donald Trump is so against mail-in voting, yet when it comes to Florida or Georgia or, I mean, I have the list right here where you don't need a reason to vote by mail at all. It's whether it be prior or for this election. And let's see, we got Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, West Virginia, Iowa, Missouri, North and South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas. He doesn't say anything about those states, but there's going to be widespread fraud in California and New York, which New York doesn't even allow flat out straight mail-in voting. You have to have a reason, whether that be medically or signed off for work, to be able to vote by mail or absentee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more restrictive than Florida, and he damn well knows his base in Florida are predominantly older. I know there's some that are not, and I'm not trying to discredit you guys, but the facts here are the majority of the percentage of people that vote for him tend to be older, tend to not get around as well, or can't drive. I'll sit here right now. Just because they can't drive shouldn't mean they shouldn't have their vote cast.
Yep.
It's a fundamental part of our democracy.
Right. That's the one thing that needs to be clear is no matter what side you support, the country is built off of democracy. You should be allowed to vote. That's not the question here. Those people that can't drive, they should be allowed to vote. Even if they're voting for Trump, or the other party, whatever conflicting view you may have, they should be allowed to vote because their voice matters just as much as everyone else. Talked about that last episode with the COVID treatment. They should have access to the same level of treatment. Like it's the equality aspect of this country.
What do you? I know Maine does it. Are you? And I know Europe mostly does it everywhere. Are you familiar with ranked choice voting?
Yes. Oh yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I feel like we need to look at our voting system and realize how archaic and messed up it is, and implement these other ideas in whatever form it works best for our country.
It's interesting to me because it's like it's not a wasted vote in a sense. So for those of you who are not familiar with ranked choice voting, it's typically how France holds their elections, Germany, and Maine has actually adopted this over the past, I think, few election cycles. Basically, there will be 5 candidates in one pool. There's not really a Republican, Democrat side. It'll just be a bunch of candidates thrown in there, and then they'll go in rounds. So let's say 2 Democrats are the top 2. They will go to the next round, and whomever voted prior and their candidate did not make that to the next round, they get to recast their vote.
Right.
I kind of like the idea because you have a say in every round of voting, and it's not like your vote is wasted in a sense. And I mean, your vote's never wasted, but take 2016, the couple million people who voted for Jill Stein. I mean, it would have been cool if they had a choice and said, okay, well, listen, you 2 million people pick between now Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, have a say in this process. And I think that would I feel like that would get us away from the 2-party system that we currently have that, again, is archaic, outdated. George Washington warned against the 2-party system. I mean,
we had a discussion, like you, I, and one of our colleagues, and she tends to be, quote, independent in her views. And to me, I'm not her, but it seems like she rides on single issues on certain topics that leads her to one party, and then other issues that leads her to another party. And I feel like kind of that ranked choice would help her in that regard, because she could put, okay, her top issue candidate that she runs on the same ticket, she could put that at the top, and then if that doesn't work out, then they have, at least her vote still matters.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like caucusing. I mean, caucusing is a mess, don't get me wrong, but that's how it's done. So look at the Democratic primary in Iowa. You had 43 candidates, being facetious, but had quite a bit of candidates, and everybody, let's say we got 7, everyone picked their 7 candidates. Well, these didn't make the 15% threshold, so then they had to go to a different side of the room and stand by a different candidate until they were down to the final 2 and then the final winner. It's I think we could make it a little better, not as archaic as that, just simply doing that as a primary. but I do think caucusing is kind of on the right track in a sense. I mean, Republicans do it too. I just brought the Democrats up just because I know they do that for Iowa. Republicans have primaries, and if it's weird, each state party does their own thing, whether it be caucus or primary. It's hard to keep up with.
I feel like people still care about democracy. We should look at the system and improve it. But I almost feel like people are starting to care less and less and become complacent with.
Yeah, I don't think
monarchies.
I don't think the Constitution was written as a closed document.
No.
I mean, that's literally what amendments are for, and we've seen many amendments as we go through time, and I feel like the argument now from one side is, that's it. That's the reading of the Constitution. That's it. I mean, it was written in the end of 1700s, and it's now 2020. I mean, as an easy example, a gun now is not the same gun from 1792. You know, it's things like that.
It's all in being not closed-minded. Again, that's the two-party system is horrible.
We are not 14 states anymore. We are 50 with multiple territories. So it's not. Which, so how do you feel about the Electoral College?
Oh, that's a mess. That's another archaic mess. Again, we want to hold on to these American values, quote, or the Constitution is not the Bible of the country. I mean, it's what I mean by that, it's not closed. Like you said, it's not a closed document.
It was meant to be amended. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be adapted, and it hasn't been for whatever reason. We just want to people become complacent or what, but.
My view, the Electoral College is, I mean, 100%. It's got to go. It's archaic. People preach one vote, one voice, or one person, one vote. But yeah, sure. If you live in Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, North Carolina, if I'm forgetting any swing states, I do apologize. But those are the big ones that everyone creams their pants over election time. So you're saying that So the best way I've described this is, so Democrats in Alabama, their votes don't matter. Republicans in California's votes don't matter. And this should be a bipartisan issue, because if everyone was in the process and it wasn't down to these 27 electoral votes from Florida and all this crap, like, just tally up the votes per state, submit them. Whoever has the most votes at the end wins. And we can talk about the unfairness of it too, when currently is a good example of, we have people, so Republicans run the Senate, they have 53 seats, but they represent 18 million less people than Democrats, who hold 47 seats. Donald Trump received 3 million less votes, so he is the minority, yet he's ruling the majority. Yep. And again, I don't care who the president is, and I get it. He won. He beat the Electoral College. I get it. That's fine. I'm not complaining about that. And that's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because even in a Democratic stance, it really is silly. Even if Joe Biden wins and wins the Electoral College, it's still a silly, screwed up system, and it shouldn't be done that way. It should be one person, one vote.
I'll tell you what the issue is, and you said it from the start. It should be a bipartisan, addressed by a bipartisan joint effort. But you can't have a bipartisan team right now. The country's too divided, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's
nothing can be. It's like, unless things dramatically change, that's never going to get addressed.
It's not, and I there are certain states, I know Vermont's one of them, and they allow voter registration up until the election day, and I feel like that should be everywhere too. I get
Oh yeah, the deadlines are weird.
I mean, me personally, I feel like if you're 18, you should automatically just be in a database and register to vote. That's just me.
How do you feel about mandatory voting? I think Australia, if I remember correctly, has mandatory voting.
I mean,
is that un-American?
That's what some will say is, you're forcing us to blah blah blah.
Wait, that's funny. Now that I think of that, is it un-American to ensure you vote? I'm like, wait, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's how some will view it. We've seen how mandates and mandatory things have gone this year. But yeah, it's a tough issue. That would be a tough argument to make. I just want baby steps. I'm not asking for anything crazy. I just want, like, one person in Montana's vote to matter. That's all I want.
That's true.
I mean, it's so silly that we're here, and these are the issues we're talking about that are just so common sense, man. Like, we all got to live together. You know, I don't care who the president is. We all have to live together. There's so much hostility. I mean, we the other day, someone we know got beat up on the side of the road because he was carrying a Biden-Harris sign. Guy's dog, he got out of the car with his dog. The dog bit him twice, and the guy punched him. And I mean, Jesus.
That discussion you had with the colleague I mentioned earlier, like, it was civil. I know we all have opposing views in that trio, but it was a civil discussion, and you kind of came to a consensus on a hot topic. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be a hostile environment where you can't talk to the other side. You can't hold a sign on the side of the road because then someone will come out and beat you up.
Yeah. It's weird because local elections are very different in that sense. Like, if you're a federal Democrat, you're branded with that D next to your name. If you're a Republican, well, you're part of that side. But people switch over so much in local elections, and it's not a politics thing. It's really down to who you like or view as a person. I know people who are extremely right-wing, and they really don't like the mayor of the city next to us, and she's a Republican. They hate her, yet they love our mayor, and he's a Democrat, and they vote for him every time. So it's a perfect example of, I don't know what they think when they go into the box and see a D next to a federal Democrat's name or R next to federal Republican's name, but it's much different mindset with local elections and federal.
Right. Your Paradise, Vermont, kind of perfect example.
Yeah, Vermont's they're the most liberal state in the country, yet they have a Republican governor who everyone loves. So they have a Republican governor, Democratic lieutenant governor, every other statewide official is a Democrat. They have a supermajority of Democrats in the House and in the state Senate and in all the city councils, but they continually vote for the Republican governor. And really, what they've interviewed people, and they said they like him. He's a good guy, lived in Vermont forever. He's not really extreme on any issue. View him more as an independent, and he keeps winning. He's projected to win big this fall too. So
to me, we want to talk about archaic. Parties are archaic. I feel like you went over all this just now, and I was like, none of this means anything. Republican and Democrat don't mean anything anymore. And like, you just gotta look over what they view. I feel like the fact that we even consider it a party system is like, it's sports, but it's pointless.
Yeah, and I mean, a good example. I'm not super Joe Biden fan. But I'll tell you right now, person aside, policy views line up more with me than Donald Trump. And that's me. I'm calmly saying that. Like, I mean, people hate me, whatever, I don't care. However, Biden wasn't my first choice. I'm very much so a Bernie guy. And even then, I probably agree with 95% of what Bernie says. But there were things that I was just like, that ain't going to work, or that's ridiculous. So you don't have to 100% agree with a candidate. It's what you most agree with. Like, I think everybody should have health care. I think the minimum wage needs to be increased. I think that our planet is literally dying. You know, Joe Biden may not be as forceful on those issues or want to get us to a place quicker, but in my humble opinion, I think he will get us there a little faster than Donald Trump is. And you know, he said 4 years to show that those aren't really priorities of his.
Yeah, like, if you look at, you should be voting off those people and what they stand for, not what letter they have by their name.
Yeah, and you and I, we know a lot of people who are Republicans, and I have no issue with them. They support someone else, and that's that, man. I don't understand why.
It's not a problem until
Yeah.
it's just such a sensitive spot on this country now.
What's funny is when I was growing up, politics was so taboo. I remember like no one would ever talk about it, and that seemed to change 2016. But now it's might have been better off taboo because now half the country hates each other. But again, no matter what, if Joe Biden wins, Donald Trump wins, we all got to live together. We all got to make it work. And at the end of the day, we should stop kissing the ass of Donald Trump or Joe Biden and work together, because solutions, all politics is local. If we work together to make things better for our communities, that will trickle up. We know trickle down don't work.
Yeah.
So
there's no question about that.
let's start bottom up and trying to make change in our own community and work together, because sitting there fighting with each other, we nothing gets done and we just look like idiots. We look like children.
Exactly.
Punching someone because you disagree that they're holding a Biden sign is idiotic.
Not being able to have a civil debate at the top level, like that's just it's disgusting.
Yeah, it is, especially when these people are making $200,000 a year. So it's what are you gonna do right now? But from our standpoint, I have no issue. I get along with many groups of people, and I'm fine with that. I understand that not everyone is gonna think like me.
And that's
what makes us special.
America.
Yeah, that's what makes us special.
It's a melting pot of different cultures and different viewpoints, and
if you wanna have the same viewpoints, go live in North Korea or Russia or China.
Yeah, if you want those viewpoints, you go live in a country where that's expected, like Russia or North Korea, China. You know, can't say certain things there, otherwise you'll get shot.
Yeah, I mean, we all have different opinions, but we need to...
I say that it's happening here, but whatever.
True. Separate topic. But, you know, we all have different opinions. Let's work on talking to each other, work on issues, work the issues out together, and let's make this...
Hippie. You want the world to...
I want us to be in a better place. Like, I don't think it needs to be a left versus right issue that the planet is literally burning right now. I mean, everyone hates California, but we get half our produce from California and it's burning. So
the fires are just a liberal hoax. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Science doesn't know what it's doing.
Science is fake.
They didn't rake enough.
Vaccines are fake, and you're a sheeple if you believe in them.
Microchip me with my cell phone that's already in my hands, and the 2 computers I'm on right now. So, well, thank you for listening to this episode. We hope it brought some insight, and just want to remind you guys again, I don't care, we don't care, no one should care. Just if you want to vote for Republican, vote for Republican. If you want to vote for Democrat, vote for Democrat. Just get out and vote. We have some of the worst voter turnout of any country in the world, and the worst part is we were built on suppression and not having rights. And now that we have them, people don't utilize them.
It's that American apathy.
Yeah. So utilize your most fundamental right. Go out and vote and make your voice heard. Again, you can find us on Spotify and all the podcast formats. Just search The Nurse Bros. Facebook.com/The Nurse Bros. And we appreciate you guys listening.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.